Greetings, Ani, Bonjour, Quinque, Tanzi, Scano. It's Catherine and Brian at Moonstarlodge in South Central Ontario near Georgian Bay. And our sacred lodge as Indigenous elders is not a place where you go and rent a room. This is a central concept of teaching. It's an Indigenous perspective on the idea of a place where people come to learn and to teach and be taught and teach each other. We've done this now since 1983. Brian joined me both in my business and as my life partner in 95, and we have spent these many years doing spirit work. I say that because we have new people joining us all the time, and this is a reading in the middle of eclipse season, this current eclipse season, and it's a doozy. I hope it doesn't last much longer because I think my head's going to explode with between the barometric pressure changes and all the energies. Lonesome Leonard has joined us this week. I think he misses Judy Eakley, but that's another thing. We have coming into this week, the reading is from September 30th to October 6th, is it, Brian?
Yes.
So therefore we have a new moon, and that's on October 2nd. This is an apogee new moon, micro new moon, and again there's eclipsing going on in this time frame. And the grandmother in our Indigenous tradition that we're moving into, her month with this new moon, is called Walks Tall Woman. So let me share what lessons she brings us in the cycle of the year. Walks Tall Woman is the guardian of leadership and the keeper of new paths, the mother of beauty and grace and the keeper of innovation and persistence, the role model of health, physical fitness, stamina, and letting the heart's desire take the lead, the keeper of personal impeccability and the guardian of all forms of inner strength. She teaches us how to be our personal best and still be vulnerable and human, how to keep our bodies and minds flexible and in good health through advancing and retreating, how to seek and find new paths to growing and learning, leading through example, how to develop inner strength, how to attract and release, how to walk in the truth. So this kind of apogee moon, as I've mentioned in previous videos, is something in our shamanic traditions, that we use to journey, because there is very little impedance by the energies of the moon. Can I get you to grab that box, Brian? Thank you, dear. So when we are looking at journeying and looking at the time of year that this eclipse and this new moon is happening, my partner is rustling papers over there and distracting me, so he's going to stop now or I'm going to sick Lonesome Leonard on him. Anyway, I decided to pull out a goddess deck, and this sent me a little bit into a place of feeling not in control. My discomfort rose because this is a new deck to me. It's a very powerful deck, and I'm going to show you the decks in a minute, but I've persevered and I sat with Spirit with this layout and brought out lunar cards in support of this. The Black Moon Lilith deck, because this is a dark moon, and other decks which I don't usually use a lot. So it's a powerful reading, and my discomfiture aside, we're going to use these decks for the next 2 weeks because, of course, that leads into then the next perigee full moon. So it's a super moon, and it's another eclipse. So I'll show you the decks that we're using, not in any particular order. This is the Witching Hour Oracle by Cherie Gerhardt. And this is one I've not used on camera, I don't believe, before. When I first saw it, I didn't think that it had a lot of depth to it. But then once I got it, it really is much deeper. So looks can be deceiving sometimes. The Cosmic Pink by Rachel Jean. It's a lunar deck, of course, in referencing this new moon. The Wandering Echo. It's an alternative major arcana by Rachel Jean. It's expanded. The Marigold for the Ancestors by Amrit Brar. I use that just about every week. The Wandering Soul Echo. The Wandering Soul Oracle by Rachel Jean. Again, that's part of her lunar series. Earthly Souls and Spirits Moon Oracle by Terry Foss. I love that deck. It speaks to my inner 3-year-old, I think. Something in childhood-like. The Black Moon Lilith deck that I mentioned by Adama Sese. I hope I said that correctly. And finally, the source of my discomfiture is the Sacred She deck by Ma Diva Padma. It's a deck and guidebook, and she calls it the Universal Guide to the Heart of Being. She is, like 30 years ago, this author created the Osho Zen Tarot and the Tao Oracle. So it's been a while since she's produced anything, but it's a great deck, and as I get more comfortable with it, I'll certainly bring it out here more often because it's a beautiful deck. So all that being said, Brian, let's go to the cards. Here are the 7 Sacred She Tarot, and then they're clarified here by other tarot decks, and there's one each of the clarifiers that I mentioned. We start with the Queen of Pentacles. So this is very much a deck full of kings and queens, and these are archetypes. A queen doesn't necessarily mean a female. It's the energy of, or as Carl Jung would say, the archetype of the one who looks inward. So this is the queen archetypes tend to be nurturing self, nurturing immediate family, nurturing their immediate environment. Whereas kings are external or extrinsic, queens are internal or intrinsic. So here we go. This is the card of support, it says. And the support of this queen is clarified here by the 6 of Moons, which is thinking of the past in terms of fond memories, thinking of childhood, thinking of support. Now, not everybody received a lot of support in childhood. This queen is cuddling a child. But it is the way sometimes in which we support ourselves, to look at perhaps things which comforted us as children. Sometimes that's a place to go when we need to be inspired about a new path. So here's where it ties in to Walks Tall Woman. If we loved to dance or do art or ride horses when we were a kid, and we gave that all up for adulthood, maybe this is a time to start reintegrating some of the joys that weren't inhibited, that could come forward when we didn't have the layers of adult responsibility. So this is a wonderful start to the week. Self-care, self-nourishment, looking at the good, looking at the emotional gift that we can give ourselves moving forward. However, it's followed by the only major arcana card here in this reading, which is the Moon. Now, for this author, that represents anxiety. It can represent illusion, so thoughts of the past can't bring up, it can bring up illusion, but we're being asked to be aware of that. The anxiety that the Moon represents is really only part of what the Moon represents. It represents seeing into the shadow, so not being afraid to see what has caused us anxiety. And is the anxiety real, or is it an old past tape replaying itself from childhood? So this is about being aware of if anxiety should come. Don't let anxiety ruin the self-nourishment. This represents childhood awarenesses. This represents adult, queen-like. So this is getting rid of things which no longer serve. The anxiety, or the Moon card, is clarified here by the Fool, because we're on a new journey. These are ancestors bringing us the fact that we're starting a new journey. So we don't need to bring any anxieties from the past. They no longer serve, and anything that isn't in the moment doesn't exist. It's only when we pull it into our mind out of habit that we give it life. What we need to acknowledge here is the 10 of Pentacles, which is privilege. We have everything we need in this material walk. The Queen is about the material walk, our earthly three-dimensional life. It's recognizing and being grateful for all the good we do have in our lives. If we have a home, if we have food, if we have clean water, if we're not in a war zone, you know, this is the kind of basic larger picture issue we need to be grateful for. It's clarified by the lunar card to see beyond. This is third eye. This is a catalyst. When we can be relaxed about our third dimensional life, it's time to look beyond that into the other dimensions. That's the shamanic pull of a new moon in apogee. So here's where we're going. The next card represents dance, which is the same in this deck as the Four of Wands. So it's celebration. She points out that all bodies who can dance, dance is important. Expressions of energy, releasing energy, and it's a collective thing. It's with our tribe, so to speak. This isn't a soul lone dance. This is a collective thing. And it's interesting that from the lunar, the little cosmic pink, this card appears to be in the same kind of dance. It's representing the self. This is an additional major arcana card in Rachel Jean's deck. And it represents opening to the honesty of who we really are, not suppressing that and letting it shine. So let the fire, the spirit of wands, which is the fire in the belly, as we call it, the passionate expression of who we are, becomes dominant now in this reading. This card, flow, represents the same as the Ace of Cups. So we have a new flow of energy that's incubating and moving forward. It's not the same as the Six of Cups down here. This is a new beginning. We have the Fool card, and so we're looking at this in terms of what the ancestors are giving us. And in this case, this is the snow moon, and this is communication. So the ability here to begin a new emotional journey in our life, allows for communication to be much more prevalent from ancestors. I wanted to say at the beginning of the reading and didn't, but I'll say it now because this card has shown up. It's always a dance between how long these videos are and keeping people from tuning out, because you want to get them, the whole message. But I find the veil is very thin this year, very early. Normally it's around about the time of Owagat, historically. Owagat is the 25th of October, fully a month away from where we are now. And that's the feast of the Iroquoian Feast of the Dead, and that starts the whole time through what we call Halloween or Samhain, the various days of the dead in harvest festivals in many cultures, honoring the ancestors. Well, this flow, this emotional new beginning that we're starting with this week, with this new grandmother of Walks Tall Woman, is telling us that we are going to be experiencing the same kind of flow of information that we would normally get through the snow moon, which is in January, from our ancestors. It's going to start now and continue for some time. So this is a very woke period, so to speak. The veil is thin, as I said, and the connections will be strong and easy to discern the messages from the ancestors. The last two cards are two kings of very different suits. This is the King of Swords and this is the King of Wands. The King of Swords is about clarity and discernment at a level that is, again, extrinsic. Kings are looking outwards beyond themselves and their immediate family to the broader community. So being able to see, being quick-witted, being smart, having a flow of energy that's divine in its source. And it's clarified here by the magician. So we become the alchemist of all the dimensions by having the clarity of this archetype, the King of Swords. And again, this is the King of Wands, and this is about integrity, using our power, the passion that comes from spirit to do things beyond the self for the family and for the community. The lion is here, and the lion represents Leo. It represents strength. It represents lust for life. And I'm going to ask Brian to douse, and if this is a suggestion here that what we are creating gives us a timeline right up to Leo of 2025. Yeah,
Yep.
So that's a big yes. So we're building something with this new journey that we're on that's quite magnificent. The King of Wands is clarified by the Black Madonna. And I think now I understand why I felt some sense of perturbation, if you will, about using this deck, feeling out of control and not knowing. But the Black Madonna is the sacred dark goddess mother. And she's about being unafraid to let chaos happen around us, because it's like when the earthquake happens and it shakes things around and moves things around. It's not exactly a tower moment. It's a getting rid of things which inhibit us. So the energy and the power of the fire in the belly here, we know that we have the protection of this king, but we also have the protection of the Sacred Mother, who is in fact really a similar, very similar archetype in some ways to this Queen of Pentacles. You can flip the camera, Brian. So from the sacred to the secular and off to the absolute sacred and divine in this week. This is a very powerful week. I've often used the expression when we prepare for energies, particularly volatile energies like the perigee full moon, we can be like those surfers off the coast of Hawaii or Australia that want to ride the big wave. And if they're prepared and focused, their surfboard rides the top of the wave and they make it to shore. But if we're unprepared, unfocused, and we fall off that surfboard, the great white shark is underneath in the wave, waiting to bite us in the ass. So it's about preparation. So this starts on the 30th, this reading, and this gives us a couple days in that full moon eclipse, new moon eclipse energy to prepare for how we will ritualize it and communicate with the divine, because clearly the gateways are open. So we thank you for joining us for this reading, and I want to let you know that I'm going to be reviewing a couple of decks with some extra videos. One pair of decks is by Anya Rogov, and I'll give you a complete lowdown on that. I look forward to using these decks again in a different orientation for next week. Give us a thumbs up if you like this video. Subscribe if you haven't, because you'll get notification of all kinds of different videos, including the upcoming parapsychology series and other things. It's not just tarot all the time. Brian is doing better and feeling better, and we thank you for your support, sending your coffees and your e-transfers and your PayPal donations. That's just been so helpful with all we've been going through. So thank you. Miigwech, Nyoin, be safe. Oh.